Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Good afternoon. It's Thursday. It's 3 o'clock, and it's time to be adrenalized. That's right, folks. It's time to get that blood flowing and those get up and get moving, get re-energized. Why? Because you're here, you're alive, and it's time to be motivated to live your best life. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Marino, and welcome to the Tom Marino Show. I am your host, life and executive coach. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you a few ways. I want you to go to tommarino.com. That's tommarino.com and fill out a contact form and reach out. If you're struggling with something, if you need help with something, you're looking to make some changes, you're looking to overcome some anxiety, some worry, some fear, give me a shout out on my website. Visit that contact page, tommarino.com. And I want to hear from you right now. We are live in the studio, and I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you with whatever difficulties you're going through. I want to speak with you. So call 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. And let's talk a little bit. I cannot believe it is February. It is February 3rd. We are 1 month into the new year, and time is just flying by. And what better way to bring in a new month than with a stomach bug in my household? That's what I've been dealing with this week, folks. It's been fun, to say the least. Unfortunately, my wife and my son got a stomach bug. My daughter got strep. Thank God right now I'm doing okay. It's nothing like those situations that wake you up to get a month started. You want to start a new chapter, a new phase of your life, and you get hit with something so unpredictable and so unexpected. It kind of puts things into perspective for you. The last couple of days, I've been pretty anxious about whether or not I'm going to get sick. It feels like we're coming to an end of a pandemic, right? Because the stomach bug, strep throat, those are things we really haven't spoken about in the last 2 years. We've been only talking about that one thing, that one anxiety-provoking thing called COVID. But maybe it is coming to an end soon. Hopefully, that's what it indicates. So, being anxious, is something that I'm very familiar with. And I want to talk to you a little bit about anxiety today. I just had a article published on wellness.com on how to use your adrenaline rush to conquer anxiety. And, anxiety is something that everyone at some point in their life experiences. We know it as worry. And we all handle anxiety differently. Some people get very sad when they're anxious. Some people get very mad when they're anxious. I know that when I'm anxious about something, I often get angry. That's the thing my wife reminds me of. When you're anxious and you're going to do something and you're not sure about it, like the other night we went to the Islander game at the new UBS Arena. And I had never been there before. It was the first experience of me going there. And I was anxious all afternoon just thinking about what I had to do, where I had to go. And it's so silly because all I had to do was just put it in Waze and get there and put the parking lot I was going to park in and get there. But when we do new things, for some reason, that's when I worry the most. That's when I see my son worry the most, is when we're taking on new experiences and we don't have familiarity with those experiences. And what happens to me sometimes is I'll get mad. I'll bark and I'll be like, no, I don't want to do that right now. I'm focused on where we're going later. We'll do that later, and I can get very intense in my anxiety. And I know when I'm getting angry that it's really anxiety. So how does your anxiety manifest for you? Give me a call. Let me hear how you handle your anxiety. What does it look like? Call me 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. So in this article that I wrote about, in conquering your anxiety by using your adrenaline rush, right? I talk about it being adrenalized, right? Live adrenalized, choose your adrenalized life. And I talk about adrenaline. It's that hormone. It's that epinephrine. It's that adrenaline rush that we experience in a fight or flight situation. And, there's so many benefits to that hormone when we're in a fight or flight situation. When we are struggling to get out of a dangerous situation or unsure about what to do next, adrenaline kicks in and it increases your blood pressure, right? And what that increase in blood pressure does is it brings more blood to your brain, brings more blood to your muscles, because it helps you to act and to make decisions very quickly in that moment. And we need to learn how to utilize that adrenaline rush. We need to learn how to capitalize on that in order to act and be more decisive. And in the article, I talk about, 4 steps to helping you use your adrenaline to enhance your mental concentration so that you can conquer stress, right? And the first thing that I recommend is focusing on the goal. So when we're in fight or flight and it's been activated, our goal is to seek safety in that situation. When we're overwhelmed by fear and anxiety, ask yourself, what's my goal? What will make me feel safe? That's what we're usually facing in our initial experience of our own anxieties is, what is it going to take us to feel safe? Once you've determined what your goal is, and typically it is your safety, you can figure out what steps you need to take to escape that situation. If you work backwards, I find that helps, right? It's where do you want to be, right? When you're feeling anxious, what do you really want to be true in this situation? What do you want to be true about that situation? What's the outcome you're really looking for? Because if you can focus on what the goal is, what that outcome is, and work backwards, then you can figure out the steps that it'll take you to get there. But sometimes we get so overwhelmed by the anxiety that we feel that we don't think about what we really want. We just think about, oh my God, what's going on for me right now? If you're just tuning in, we're talking about anxiety, and this is the Tom Marino Show. So give me a call. I want to hear from you. I want to hear about your anxieties. I want to hear from you and how you handle your situations every day that make you anxious. 631-451-1039. The next thing, about anxiety I want to talk about is taking a minute to breathe, right? So take a deep breath, okay? We're right here in this moment. We're live on the air right now, okay? Take a minute, and if you're driving right now, whatever you're doing right now, I want you to just take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Wow. That totally calms you down. When we panic and we're anxious, we forget to breathe. So focus on the goal, number 1. Number 2, take a deep breath now that you know what the goal is, right? Take a few deep breaths. I always tell people to learn how to breathe in a minute. And people look at me and go, what do you mean, Tom? What I mean is know how many deep breaths you can take in a minute. Because breathing in a minute is going to calm you down. It's going to help you to slow down your heart rate. It's going to help you to slow down your breathing. And if you know how many deep breaths are in 1 minute, you don't need a clock. You just need to count the number of times you do that. Maybe it's 3 times, maybe it's 5 times for you. So first things, focus on the goal that you're trying to manage in a situation when you're feeling anxious. What do you want to be the outcome of that situation? And then the next thing is to start to breathe. Take a deep breath, slow that heart rate down, and use that blood flow that's coming to your brain to make a decision about what you want. Okay? All right. I want to hear from you. 631-451-1039. We are going to take a quick commercial break, and I want you to go to tommarino.com and fill out a contact form and reach out to me if you're struggling with some anxieties. I'm here to help you with that. All right. We will see you after this break.
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, because I'm happy. Clap along if you.
And welcome back back to the Tom Marino Show. I'm your host, Tom Marino, life and executive coach, relationship strategist. Give me a call, 631-451-1039. Today, we are talking about anxiety and how we deal with our anxiety. I mentioned earlier in the show that sometimes when I'm anxious, I start to get angry and upset. Some people feel differently. Some people feel sad. How do you deal with your anxiety? How do you know your anxiety is acting up? I want to hear from you. Give me a call, 631-451-1039. You know, anxiety is that master distractor. I often say to my clients, anxiety is simply misdirected energy. Worry is simply misdirected energy. Instead of worrying about something, use that energy to take action. Right? You know, I talked a couple of times about how I'm new to the Peloton, and I was on the Peloton this morning, and I was riding, and I like the instructor, Leanne Hainsby from Great Britain, and she does a lot of great talk to you when you're on the bike. And, you know, when you go from sitting on the seat to rising up and just pedaling with your legs not seated, you know, she calls it getting up on the dance floor. And she says, when you're on the dance floor, though, don't bounce around too much because that's a waste of energy. And it's so true. When we worry, we waste energy. When we worry, we have energy that is totally misdirected. So, you know, what I was trying to talk about in the beginning of this episode is really, you know, there's 4 steps that I talk about adrenalizing, you know, you're using your adrenaline to overcome your anxiety. And the first 2 things were to focus on what the goal is. What's the outcome that you're looking for? And the second thing that I've been talking about is taking a deep breath, just breathing and allowing yourself to have a clearer mind. You know, if you're just tuning in, I want to hear from you. I want to know what anxieties you're experiencing, and I want to help you. So give us a call, 631-451-1039. The other 2 steps that I talk about in the article that's been posted on wellness.com is develop possible solutions, right? A lot of times we get caught up in we don't know what the solutions are, and we become paralyzed because we don't know what our options are, what we want to do. And, you know, we have to make sure that we figure out what are all the possibilities that are in front of us. You know, when we feel threatened or unsure about what's ahead of us, stress is what blinds us to solution and possibility. It's the worry, it's the anxiety that blinds us to that possibility. You know, use the increased concentration of your adrenaline rush. Tap into that adrenaline rush. And if you're not feeling adrenalized, well, envision it. Envision what it's like to be in that difficult situation and optimize your blood flow to that brain of yours so that you can take the next steps that you need to take. Okay? I see that we have a caller on the line, Brett from Shirley. So, Brett, welcome to the show.
How are you?
Great. Thanks for calling in, man. How you doing today?
Doing well. Interesting piece you got going.
All right. What's speaking to you today about your anxiety?
I think, well, I mean, you look at what's going on right now. I mean, definitely in the country, locally.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's suffering from some type of anxiety. I mean, you could name a list of 10 things. I mean, you know, we're definitely experiencing, you know, higher prices like across the board, which that alone's enough to, you know, drive stress. So I think you tapped into something with the breathing, though. That's an old thing like meditation that I remember my father did growing up, and he would meditate and he wouldn't even know anyone was in the room. He got into a deep state and he just felt like totally relaxed after he did that. He would do it every day for about a half an hour.
Absolutely. You know, breathing is a key, and you know, we do it every second of our lives, but yet in the moment of stress, we sometimes forget to do that. So we have to be reminded. And that's a great point. What do you, when you're stressed or you're anxious, what's your feeling? Do you go to anger, sadness, fear? What is the thing that drives your emotion there?
It depends on the situation, I'd have to say. I don't think it's universal. I mean, I have small children. I mean, I think that, you know, I have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old. I think fear would probably come into that. I'd be, you know, fear, you know, other types of stress. Money stresses get you. I mean, when you get worried, but you could also get angry from that, right? So I just think it's, you know, what's stress? You'd have to give me an example of, you know, what's happening in my life. And then when it happens, I kind of adapt to it, I feel.
Yeah, that's a great point. What kind of line of work are you in? You have a business? You work for someone? What's your deal?
I have a couple of things going on. It seems that's the way, right? The income streams. But I've been working for UPS for almost 32 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I did some security work at like hotels, and I just, like I said, I got the wife at home with the kids, so it was a choice we made.
Right.
So I'm the provider these days.
Right.
So again, it comes down to financial. I think that I don't know. You would probably know. This is what you do, but I heard financial, like money, is one of the biggest stresses that everybody endures.
Listen, we all have those financial stresses. I mean, no matter who you are, whether you're making minimum wage or you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's always a way that people find to be stressed out by money. And it really comes down to your relationship with money, right? I always talk about a healthy relationship with money. And that's one of the things that's really difficult for people to wrap their head around. It's how you were raised. How did you see money as a kid? What did you see it do to your parents? And what was your frame of reference for that? And, being the breadwinner in a family is a very tough thing. You're carrying that extra quote unquote burden, right? I mean, because you're the provider. But you mentioned something before that I liked. I like that you said, I got a couple of things going on. And I think that's one of the things when it comes to anxiety and developing some solutions around money is don't put your eggs in one basket, right? We live in a great time right now where we have an opportunity to make a lot of passive income. There's a lot of e-commerce and a lot of passive income out there that you can learn about and grapple with so that you can actually make money while you sleep. And it doesn't take a lot to set those kinds of things up. It just takes an idea and exploring that idea and really working through that. Is there anything that you are thinking about doing or that you're struggling with doing to get set up as another form of income for yourself?
No. What I wanted to add to the discussion is, so I grew up in the 80s. I'm 51, and I learned, like, both of my parents actually worked, which was different. I mean, back then it was usually the guy went out and worked, woman stayed home with the kids. It's a little harder to do that today. My parents definitely taught me how to work. I grew up in a middle class family. I didn't really need for much. My parents wouldn't give me anything for nothing. If I wanted to get money to do things, they said, okay, go rake the leaves, we'll give you $5.
Right.
I had to rake the leaves. Then after a while, I started asking them, like, hey, what can I do to make money? So it molded me today. This is my point. Like, I'm a worker. I work 3 jobs. Anybody that knows me would tell you I work very, very hard. I work hard, but the thing I never learned was what to do with the money.
Right.
I really didn't. Like today, I mean, listen, back then, I don't know if they had like the mutual funds, the IRA. I don't know if it was as big. My father doesn't really seem to remember that stuff. He's in his 80s.
Right.
Now. But like, what the pandemic did for me, like the last 2 years, it kind of forced me to look at everything in my life. So like looking at what I make, and this all is related to the discussion of stress. So for me, what I did was I realized I need to get out of debt. Right. Which I'm almost debt free. I have a little bit left on my home, and I'm debt free.
Congratulations.
And I don't even make a lot of money, but I was trying to explain to somebody, it's not even about how much you make. It's what are you doing with it? Like, I don't care if you make $200,000. What are you doing with the money? Where is it going?
Yeah.
Is it going to you, or is it going to the bank? So
right.
I like restructured my life in that way. And, you know what it does? It prepares you if you do have an emergency in your life. Imagine being debt free and something happens, like you lost your job. Like that would be a crisis for most people, correct? But I'm to the point where I'm getting where I could actually probably lose my jobs for like a short period of time, and I wouldn't be stressed out about it. Right.
It sounds
that's what it did for me.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you had some great parents that really helped you to be a laborer. So listen, I have to take a quick break, but I want to come back to some of these points a little bit after the break. If you could hold on for a little bit, Brett. If not, I appreciate the call. And I will address some of the things that you brought up.
For a couple of minutes.
All right, fantastic. All right, so we'll be back right after this break. And you're listening to the Tom Marino Show. Visit TomMarino.com, TomMarino.com. And I want to hear from you. I want you to call in after the break. We're live in the studio, 631-451-1039. We'll talk to you right after this.
Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. Because I'm happy. Clap along.
And welcome welcome back to the Tom Marino Show. I'm your host, Tom Marino, life and executive coach, relationship strategist. And today we are talking about anxiety and stress and how anxiety gets in the way of so many things. And before the break, we were talking to Brett from Shirley about financial anxiety. And, I want to just, take a quick second before we get back to our caller and say, if you're driving home right now and you've had a tough day, and now you've got to go home and you've got to face everything you got to do there. You got to go take out the garbage. You got to go clean out the dishwasher. You got to put things back. You got all these extra things that you're working with, and you're stressed out and you're anxious about everything that's going on. And then you turn on the television and you're sitting there and you're just watching how the world just seems to be going crazy. And we're worried about who's got COVID now and what new strain is coming up. In the midst of all of that stress, all of that anxiety, it's always going to be there. My goal for my clients is to help them find an adrenalized life, to choose their adrenalized life. My job is to help you to figure out how to deal with all of that stress, all that anxiety, and adrenalize yourself, because that's always going to be there. But that's where I come in and I help you sift through all of that garbage. I help you figure out what it is that you need to do next. What are the solutions that we need to drive to? What do we need to help you to adrenalize yourself? So we're going to go back to Brett, and before we go back to him, give us a call, 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. And let me know, how do you deal with your anxiety? How do you find the way out of your own anxiety? What is the thing that is causing that the most for you? So Brett, are you still there, my friend?
I'm still here.
All right. Thanks, man, for holding on. I really appreciate it. You brought up so many great points in the other part of the show when we were talking about the different stresses and the anxiety and the financial pieces. And, you seem like you've taken a lot of action to quell that anxiety around your financial situation. You said your house was almost paid off. You've worked really hard. You're a laborer. You've always been that way. You were raised by parents to be that way. And what action step would you like to take next? What would you like to be true about your situation? What's that thing?
My goal is to be able to, I guess, just retire, I guess, at an age where I'll be able to enjoy, the last part of my life, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I see, like, the older generation, be 75, 80 years old, they finally retire. I just, I know it's very hard to do that, but that's kind of the goal, is to be able to retire, by the time I'm 60, let's say.
All right, that's an awesome goal, man. And you're on your way there. I mean, if you got the house paid off and you're figuring things out, and what is, you mentioned before that you weren't sure what to do with the money, right? What are some of the things that you've thought about doing?
Well, yeah, it's just like I said, it wasn't about like, anybody that's listening, like, you could have 3 jobs and make a lot of money, but I'm telling you, the most important thing is what you're doing, where the money's going. Like, that's so important. Even if you have to sacrifice a couple of trips here and there, it's worth it. Because when you start getting older and you look at your financial situation, especially through times like this with inflation, and you don't have any money and you're living check to check, you can't tell me that's not stressful.
Right.
So like I said, in the last couple of years, I've totally adapted to the situation, and just, again, a lot of sacrifice, and, which I know you couldn't do much anyway with the, COVID going around. So, but like just, the budgeting and, investing, paying off debt, stuff like that. But I think the 3 major things, like, for stress, in my opinion,
right,
just from life experiences, obviously this is what you do, but just for me, life experiences would be like going through a divorce, which I've done that.
Right.
Going through a divorce, your family separates. It's very stressful. I also say health is a huge stress, and money's a stress. So, like I said, we already addressed the money issues. Like,
right.
Live within your means. Be prepared for, like a disaster, right? So that takes the stress away if it happens, right?
Right.
Think of 2 people in the same situation, right?
Yeah.
They lose their job. Somebody's got all this money and they're well prepared for it. It's not as stressful. If somebody doesn't have any money at all, that's a disaster, heart attack.
Right. And
the health thing, just to quickly with the health, is like, I mean, I've seen so many people, like, not to get into it, but people that are dying and having health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, the biggest thing we need to learn from what's going on with COVID is, yeah, we can protect ourselves with masks and stay away and all that, but the bottom line is the health. Like, you see people that are healthy that get it and they survive from it. So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying to go on a crash keto diet because let's face it, you're going to do that for the rest of your life. You got to find something that you could do for the rest of your life. Like, in other words, just make a couple of adjustments. Like, that's what I've done. In the last year, I started drinking a gallon of water every day. I don't eat at night. Like, little things like that I think will help the health for later on. You know?
Absolutely. And Brett, you've given all our listeners some really great tips, and I think that you may have a career in coaching, man. You can help people figure their stuff out. I mean, you have definitely hit on a lot of the key points, and I really appreciate the call. And thanks for calling in.
Give me the time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate.
Like I said, it's just life's experiences. I'm 51, and it's just like I said. It's not even about like how much knowledge I've had. It's just actually having bad times in my life. Like the financial end is because I was struggling my whole life, living check to check, and same thing, like a divorce and health, like all that stuff is sometimes you have to experience it, but you got to learn from it. And that's what happened with me. And that's why when I heard you talking about it, I was just thinking about all these things. But I appreciate the time. Have a great day.
You too, Brett. Thanks so much. And yeah, thank you again for all of those tips. And you're right. Learning from it is the win. I was listening to a coach of mine, and we were talking about that anytime you learn something from a situation, you win. Anytime it's progress, it's really, that's sometimes just the goal of the anxiety and the worry is to learn something from it. And I always talk about every experience that we have, every opportunity that we have is an opportunity to learn something. If you are struggling with handling your anxiety and you want some help, let me help you. Call in right now, 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. Another thing that Brett mentioned and what I think helps a lot of people with their anxiety, especially around money, is living within your means. We have a lot of people, and our world does not promote us living in our means, right? You get credit cards. Credit cards are not cash, people, right? We learn all the time that if you charge too much and you don't have the money to pay for it, now you're living outside of your means. And I think we have to take the right action steps. And that was the fourth point in the article that I wrote about conquering your anxiety and using your adrenaline rush is to take that action. It sounds like Brett has taken a lot of great actions. He's learned a lot of great things from all of his experiences. And, to have gone through a divorce and be 51 and almost be near paying off your house, that sounds like you've accomplished something really successful. And yes, but the anxiety is still there, right? He still has these worries about what's going to happen next, all the inflation that's going on. He's worried about his health, and he really brought that up as another great point. And he said, just a few little things that I've changed, and I'm hoping that they help. And that's what it takes, right? Don't let your worry get in the way of you taking some action steps that will be beneficial to you. I think that's one of the things that we often forget. When we become overwhelmed, we become paralyzed. And when we worry too much, we become paralyzed by that worry and we don't do anything. The goal is to activate yourself, to take the action steps that you need to take in order to overcome that fear, that anxiety that is paralyzing you. I think when we think about worry, it's why are you worrying? Is it a form of motivation for you? And I read something recently on Psychology Today that we worry as motivation, right? Some people need that adrenaline rush in it that's coming from a worry to really use it as motivation to do something. And they feel like if they worry, they actually care. When caring and worrying become associated, it almost is like a sick, twisted thing to think about. I care because I worry because I care. No, you don't have to worry to care. Just care. Being thoughtful, thinking about other people, being caring is what it's about. Not worrying about people. Care about people. Look out for other people. Don't let those things creep in. All right, after the break, we're going to come back and we'll wrap up the show today. But we're going to finish talking about anxiety. I want to hear from you. It's 631-451-1039. Give us a call. Brett from Shirley, thanks again for calling in. Really appreciate that. We'll be back right after this break. And if you have a chance, visit TomMarino.com. Go to TomMarino.com and fill out a contact form. I want to hear from you, and let me do my job. Let me help you figure out how to navigate all this stress and worry in your life. All right, we'll talk to you right after this break.
Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back.
Welcome back to the Tom Marino Show. I'm your host, life and executive coach, relationship strategist, Tom Marino. I hope that you are having a great day. We've been talking all this afternoon about our anxieties and stress, and I want to hear from you. We are live in the studio, so give us a call at 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. We were talking a little bit about, before the break, I mentioned about caring and worrying, and I said it's a little twisted. The bottom line is we have this thought that comes into our brain that if I didn't worry, it would mean I don't care. If I didn't worry, it would mean I don't care. Is that really true? That's not true at all. It's not true at all. We've got to change that, what John Acuff, and I've talked about John Acuff's book a little bit, called Soundtracks. And he talks about soundtracks that we repeatedly have in our head that are often negative, that are not friendly to us, that are not truthful. And, the soundtrack about caring is worrying, is if I didn't worry, then it means I didn't care. Well, if I didn't worry, it would mean I don't care. Does that really resonate for you? Is that really a soundtrack in your head? Well, we need to change that soundtrack. I care, but I don't have to worry. I care about you, but I don't have to worry. I care about you. That's the soundtrack to replace. If you've been worried and thinking about that, and somebody in your life you're concerned about and you care about, and you're worrying and you're bringing on that burden yourself, you have to think for a minute and say, okay, am I worrying because I really think I don't care if I don't worry? Change that, because we're draining ourselves. We're hurting ourselves. A lot of these soundtracks that we play in our minds really impact us physically, and like I said before too, you come home from a long day, whether you're driving home right now and you've not had the best day, it's a little gloomy outside right now, and maybe you are looking for that pick-me-up, right? You're looking for that pick-me-up, but everywhere you turn, whether you put on the television, whether you talking to someone in your house that's not feeling well, or you're struggling with a situation and you just don't know what you want to say, you're stressed out. And all of this is going to bring your physical health down. We wear our worry in our physical health and in our body language. And we need to turn that around. We need to use that worry and say, you know what? I'm not going to let it get the better of me. I'm going to use this energy that's misdirected energy. Like I said to you earlier, anxiety is just misdirected energy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect it. Go get on a Peloton, or go get on a bike, go for a run, go for a walk. Use that energy to help your physical health. Don't use it to hurt your physical health. That's what's really most important. I mentioned earlier the article that was recently published on wellness.com, and the fourth step was taking action. And the four steps again are: 1, decide what your outcome is. Focus on what the goal is. 2, breathe. Breathe through it. 3, find all the solutions that you could possibly come out with. And then 4 is to take action, not be paralyzed by it. That's how you adrenalize yourself. And that's where I come in your life, is to help you find those solutions, help you to determine what those outcomes are, help you to breathe and work that into your life, and help you to take the action that you're afraid to take because you're worried about what's going to happen. So give us a call if you're there. We've got a few more minutes left in the show. I want to hear from you. 631-451-1039. That's 631-451-1039. And we've been talking all about anxiety today. And, it was interesting in this article too that I came across on Psychology Today. And, there's a few things that we can do in addition to the 4 things that I mentioned. And, one of those things is when you're worrying, when you notice you're worrying, be aware of what the beliefs are that are reinforcing that worry, right? Because if you can produce an awareness about what you're worrying about and what belief is being triggered in you that's making you worry, then we've got to change that belief. We have to restructure that belief, right? I was working with a new client last night. Actually, she was a prospective client last night. She's a new client today. And we were talking about, how religion and faith and all of these things sometimes get in the way of us doing what we want to do because we worry about what all the judges are going to say, right? We live in a world where a lot of judgment happens for us, around us, in the places that we go, the places that we worship, the places that we are. And we're always worried about what people are going to say about us and what people are going to think about us. And we've got enough to worry about, people. We've got enough to worry about with what you see on the news. We got enough to worry about with the increase in inflation. We got enough to worry about, with what our kids doing, who's not doing well in school. We got plenty of other things to worry about. The last thing that I want you to worry about is what other people think about you. I want you to stop worrying about that. I know that's a really, really difficult thing for people to do, but in my line of work, the number one reason why people are worrying is because they're afraid of what other people are going to think. Be aware of what influences you. I was thinking in the ride over here to the studio, I've never really given a plug for you to follow me on social media, and I'm really going to encourage you to follow me on social media. On Instagram, on Facebook, just go at Tom Marino Coaching. That's Tom Marino Coaching. And I put posts up regularly, and I want you to get daily inspiration. I want you to have daily reflection and think about the things that you need to be influenced by. The positive things. There's nothing fake about what I put on social media. There's a lot of people that put a lot of fake stuff, and we're comparing ourselves to those people. We're judging other people's lives, and then we're judging our lives, and we're creating more anxiety and worry. Because when we realize we're not where someone else is, it provides us with a lot of anxiety because we are a very heavily comparison-based people. Be careful of what is influencing you, especially what's on social media, because that provokes a lot of anxiety. That changes a lot of our perspective, and sometimes not for the better. And that's why I want to encourage you to follow people like me who are trying to promote positive thinking, who are trying to promote positive change, who are trying to communicate to you to be aware of what narrative you're writing for your life that's being influenced by other people. Because don't let other people cause you to worry. Don't let that stress, don't let those influences, don't let those things get in the way of you being the truest version of yourself. And I said that last night to this new client of mine, and she just had this huge sigh of relief when I said, don't worry what other people think. And that's what coaching is about. That's one of the things that I do in coaching is I give you a judgment-free zone. It's all about you being your truest self, being able to freely communicate what it is you need to communicate so that you can get those stresses, those anxieties. That is my craft. That is my art, is to help you do that in a way where you never feel judged. So think about what's writing your narrative right now. What is determining your life narrative? Is it other people? Is it yourself judging yourself? Or is it circumstances that you're judging harshly? Just think about those things because all of those are provoking your anxiety. All of those root in your anxiety. Okay? Because we're afraid of what other people think. And sometimes that judgment of ourselves is because we're even afraid to be our truest self. So we worry about the person that we are projecting. And I want you to project an adrenalized person. I want you to be adrenalized. I want you to know what you want. I want you to go after what you want, take the action that you need to get what you want to do. And I want you to wear that. And I want you to live adrenalized. I want you to choose that adrenalized life where you're acting clearly. All right. This has been the Tom Marino Show. I'm your host, Tom Marino. I want you to visit my website at tommarino.com. Fill out a contact form if you're struggling with any of these things and get back to me. I'll get back to you and we'll set up a complimentary call. But go to tommarino.com, go to the radio page, leave a question that you'd like me to answer on the air. I want to be able to speak directly to you. So give me a call. All right, this is Tom Marino. And until next week, choose your adrenalized life.
Talking this and that.